Gather round, you gamers. The hearth is warm. AEL and Blizzard are bringing you another Hearthstone Cup supported by Maccas. The Cup this time around is open to everyone, and I, for one, am very keen to see all the new names and styles this tournament brings. I'm Mendrix, and my companion on this new journey is the Wandering Bard. Mate, how are you going today?
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, of course, Mendrix. Here with you, casting Hearthstone, a game I've, enjoyed past, but never gotten to commentate before. So looking forward to that experience over the course of this cup. Of course, as you said, seeing what sorts of decks and lineups these players are bringing today, right? Hearthstone is going to be very interesting with the metagame being shaken up by the new Dead Mines mini expansion.
That's right. Well, United under Stormwind expansion has typically seen the more aggro decks really rise to the top, and the thoughts of the community have been that this mini deck edition has actually shored up those initial strategies. I mean, the new pirates coming into the mix have really made Quest Warrior a new force to be reckoned with, and I believe a lot of other iterations coming around. Of course, those pirates adding just a little bit of extra pepper to the decks being brought out or being fielded at the moment. But before we do jump into the tournament, before we go crazy with that meta, we're a fresh casting duo, Bard. Would you agree in saying that with me?
Yeah, I mean, I view it as a new opportunity, but of course, this is our first cast together.
Yeah. Why don't we break the ice properly, formally? Let's play a game of Mercenaries. How are you feeling?
Okay, yes. Hearthstone Mercenaries. This is a fair new mode to me, at least. I only got into it in the last couple of days, but I reckon I should be ready to have a scrap with you in it.
Yeah.
It's just for friendly fun, of course, right?
Oh, of course, friendly fun. I am going to no. So, look, it's same for me. It's something that I begin to dabble in as well, and I'm really loving it. Let's keep this up. Let's keep it simple. Let's make it a best of 3, right? So We'll see how we go. I've chosen my characters. I believe you've chosen yours as well. Now, or your starting party in this sense. Now, I'm personally just going to start off with the initial starting party. I'm going to throw in Zyrelia, I'm going to throw in Tyrande, and I'm also going to put in Carry or Roam into that mix as well. I'm not sure if you've dabbled into it a bit more than I have, but I've hit ready. I've locked my starting kit in.
I'm ready to select my starting team. I've got a balanced party like you, I think, in terms of the color combinations, but I don't know if I quite have the typical rating of healer, tank, DPS. I'm more of a
So I'm just having a quick look in terms of how I want to play it through here. And typically, I'm not going to really choreograph what I'm going to say straight into it, but what I'm going to do is just sort of focus my attack onto one of your mercenaries instead, and see if maybe I can take one of them out of the game early. That's my plan.
It does seem pretty effective, especially since I don't have a healer. I mean, if anyone knows WoW lore, you can tell I've got Jaina, Tyrande, Romash. No one there is really packing holy magic. But focusing on a single target's good. You get to replenish your dead mercenaries if they go down. But there is a benefit to spreading them out as well because of the type advantage. So I'm just trying to maximize my damage overall. And I assume that's going to work out for me.
Yeah, exactly, and I think it's one of the interesting things about Mercenary that I've really, begun to see as I begin to double in a bit further, begin to really grind out most of my mercenaries and get them to these positions so that you can have some pretty mean combinations that you don't expect to have happen, where literally because they might have a particular treasure that you picked up along the way, or because you decided to actually use proper synergy between other starting members that you might have, you can really use them to support it. Come on, man! Come on, man!
So I can see
this is
why tanks. So you don't need tank. Right? You can taunt Gromash, but of course he's just going to cleave straight through Carriel and make it a mockery of your
rude. That's absolutely rude. All right. Millhouse. I'm bringing Millhouse into the play. Okay. I think that's something that's really interesting as well for me, is because I'm an avid, World of Warcraft, the entire universe player. And just seeing all the different characters that have been a part of that universe come into the mix has been really interesting. Millhouse Storm was introduced during that Burning Crusade expansion. So obviously getting to use him here is a little bit of a run back towards that. That's something that I personally really enjoy in the game, is that idea of, hey, maybe I can try something out a little bit differently here. I'm going to go for this. Now I've got 2 casters here now, so I've lost my healer. I've got in my opinion, a completely wrong setup. What do I do? You know what? AoE is the name of the game. All right, let's do this. You got 4 characters. What's going on here? This should be a 3 on 3.
You notice one of these characters is not the other ones, right? Water Elemental, not really a famous hero of the World of Warcraft universe, although I'm sure mage players would disagree. But Jack has the ability to summon an additional unit. Some of the other mercenaries do as well. It's not completely uncommon to see more than one unit on the field, and certainly in the sort of PvE mode where you to level up your team, right? Sort of like a JRPG or Pokemon, that's very common. Right? You're often facing a disadvantage.
Job's done.
Well, you look. I'm personally not feeling this numbers advantage at the moment. I mean, I'm looking at it here. You still have, I think, a pretty heavy. Your bench is still full, isn't it? You haven't lost anyone.
You've killed one of my units.
Okay,
you picked off Jaina right after she summoned her. Summoned a taunting water elemental, and you immediately went right past it because taunt. It's not all it cracked up to be in this game. There's certain abilities that say attack, and that's where trade hit points with the opponent. Those get taunted, but anything that just says damage, like Arcane Bolt, just goes straight through taunt. I put up a taunt wall, I just immediately shot past it and killed the mage, which I'm sure PvP players which was easier to do. But looks like King Crush making mincemeat out of your poor gnome there. I don't know why you brought a gnome or a dinosaur fight.
Look, yeah, Millhouse is not just any ordinary gnome, okay? This man has been through a hell of a lot of stuff, all right? And he packs a can of whoop ass. So I know you destroyed him. I guess it's not that much of a whoop ass. But besides the point, I believe in the future my Millhouse Menastorm's going to do it. And you know what? Like we're gonna have more mercenary games, all right? You watch.
Okay.
Watch. I'm going to find something that makes Millhouse insane now, all right?
Okay, alright, I'm looking forward to your super level to be like the magic up of Hearthstone mercenaries. Just the most powerful Millhouse muscle in the world.
It's out of the blue. It's like, why does he look like a Gyarados now? Look, just don't worry about it. I found a really cool looking skin. It's completely
no. You're making me imagining Millhouse's head, like some dragon body. It's actually quite terrifying.
It's just literally like Deathwing's body and then Millhouse's head on the top of it.
I don't have
what's going on here,
stuff, man.
You have to. Like, this is what's happening at the moment. Like,
alright. Let's see how this can go. Grommash does have type advantage against my hitters, the green characters, right? Sort of the scissors, paper, rock set. But I think by sheer brute force and numbers, get over the line.
Well, the problem here, right, is that, like, even though Grommash was able to deal with your dinosaur, clearly he's obviously been playing a bit more of the, like, time machine type metas and going back and But I think, I think one of the key things we need to take into account with this one is that I kind of went into there. My game plan was probably nowhere near as strong as yours. I feel like you actually have a better idea of your game plan in terms of what you're going to be doing. I was just like, I'm going to attack Jaina because I don't really like that hero, okay? She's always been a little bit annoying to me. I know a lot of people are going to give me a bit of flack on that one, but it is what it is. But that being said, we're going to get to the second match here. I'm warmed up now. I'm feeling a bit better, Bart. I don't know about you.
Oh, I'm feeling great. Up with a 1-0 lead, I can go for something a little bit off the wall here, show off a different strategy. As you mentioned, I have been playing slightly more of this. Just it really found it easy to kind of keep playing while I was trying the mode out, and you start to unlock different modes quite quickly, and you can kind of see there's different overlapping synergies between them. Maybe you have a bunch of pirates together. Maybe you play like a horde-focused deck, and I'm the kind of person where I love to tinker with different archetypes.
Knowledge of the stars provide.
Fight! Job's done. Job's done.
That one.
I don't love it, but that does explain his third ability, right? You sort of, I think they changed it around and made it all Upsiden's version. Because you can summon a fish to your side of the battlefield. I don't know if I have the freedom right now to be doing it, but I was certainly leveraging it in the single player mode. You kind of like hand them a useless fish unit that you can then kill to get buffs on your team. It's pretty fun. Oh, I think I accidentally just readied up without. Oh no, I didn't even action star half my team. I just
Oh
clicked the
no!
ready
Well, you know
No.
what? People are gonna say this is scripted, so we can go to a third match. It is a best of 3 that we're doing right now.
No, I'm just terrible. I just got distracted. I had too much talking about.
Oh no, they're still doing stuff.
I think I only gave Jada a rule.
Fair enough.
Because the thing is, right, I don't know if you've been noticed, my water elemental has an attack. It's not because the water elemental can't attack. It's just that I don't want it to trade hit points. I want to leave the sort of taunt wall up. As long as possible. So I got in the habit of pressing the, confirm end your turn type button. I just probably should have told my Murlocs to do something first.
That makes sense. That makes some sense.
So I think this is where your tank healer setup comes to shine. So I've got all these arcane creatures here trying to lay into your protector, carry or roam, and she just keeps kind of healing through it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, just like throwing the heals towards her herself at the moment, so it's starting to like come through. And I guess that's part of the reason you look at them like, hey, because you try to put it in these attacks and these things, you're kind of hoping that, hopefully, when we do actually begin the next fight or the next thing to it, yours goes off first. Sometimes that random roll really can be the difference between a character remaining alive versus it falling down. So that's just something that I've personally found to be really interesting to see if, maybe that will come across. I'm not too sure. We're going to have to wait and see. But yeah, if my abilities do come through first before you get an opportunity to do your attack, I might...
See the big number on that other, see that's a 9 on that attack icon. That always go last. That's a 9 speed. So whereas your taunt on Carriel is a 1 speed. So that will always happen before my abilities unless I do some pretty sick shenanigans to like slow your
behind the
down,
scenes.
mess with your
like
combo,
Exactly, but I think it's so hard to like get through a taunt because it's just man,
it's very fast.
Thematically, it makes sense as well. I'm standing still and fortifying myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't have to move. I don't have to do anything. Yeah. Exactly. I feel like I'm gonna roll with this. I'm gonna bring my gnome back out, mate. I'm not sure if you've got a dinosaur on the wings raiding around.
Okay. All right. See how this works.
See how it goes.
I mean, these 3 casters, I don't think summoning my taunting elemental is going to do much good, so it's time to just lay in.
You reckon?
Yeah, I reckon.
Job's done.
Some good food there in the process.
Yes. Cookie gives good food to your Murlocs and pirates, and bad food to opponents. So I'm just trying to keep Mutanus alive because, unfortunately, I haven't leveled this guy up. You can see he's only level 1.
Yeah, he doesn't have much to it. I just saw that he doesn't have the most amount of hate. And
I thought it'd be cool to play the Murloc boss with all the Murlocs. And unfortunately, he needs to be able to eat your characters to grow more powerful, and he's only got 3 attack right now, so he's not doing a lot of eating. But we'll see. Maybe we can get it.
All right, so this is part of the reason why I did what I did. I was kind of hoping that my characters would stay alive.
Yep.
Because I think this is going to work out in my favor. Or maybe not. See how we go. Yeah,
Damn
boy!
it. Oh no, getting read like a book. My Tannis down.
There we go. I've still got 2 more in my back bench, so I'm pretty happy about that.
No, these Murlocs, man, they're just they come in numbers, but they're too fragile. I wonder if you've ever observed that characteristic before.
Well, I mean that's the point, right? I mean, like Murlocs. Why did it have to be Murlocs? I don't know. I don't know if like you had the same experience as me when I first did like good old original World of Warcraft. Did you ever try to do like install and win the Murlocs in the lakes?
I was a Horde player, so I not no.
So you never look. I've done both Horde and Alliance. Like I've leveled up on both sides. But when I first started playing the game, I tried being a mage and just running around and doing that general stuff. And there's this particular lake in Elven Forest. Actually, there's 2 lakes. I think like Crystal Lake and another lake, and they've got a bunch of Murlocs on it. But there's this one that was just infamous for ruining new players because the moment you aggroed one Murloc, another Murloc would come with it directly afterwards. And I just, ever since then, they've just given me a very poor taste in my mouth. Like, oh. Like, Murlocs are just not for me, just at all, in every sense of the word. So.
See, I never had this trauma, so I think they're cool, actually.
Oh, fair enough.
I don't think I've ever played like any of the Murloc decks on Hearthstone, but in World of Warcraft, I thought they were always a cool idea, right? They're kind of like, I don't want to go, too into nerdery, but they always remind me of the fish and frog from the old school Dungeons and Dragons type fantasy adventures. You go in like a forbidden Murloc temple or something. It's and their noises they make are fun. I think they're wholesome. Unfortunately,
Enough,
Cookie
mate.
is kind of the sole representative of the
yeah,
Murloc
he's
right
last one.
now.
He's the only one left.
Yeah.
That crit was mean, I have to admit. Like, those random crits can actually just be nasty. So yeah, I'm not sure what you're gonna do. I'm guessing you're probably gonna get through my I should have taken my Gromwash out there, just realized. But it's completely fine. See how we go with that one there. To make sure we got 100% right. Alright, I'm ready to roll. I don't know about you. This might be the last stand for Cookie.
I mean, he's got health, but unfortunately he doesn't have a lot of damage output. You can see I've decided to offer you a lobster to congratulate you on this victory. Offer you a crab up there. I didn't have. If I kill that, theoretically all my units get stat ups, but looks like the lobster will live to play another day, and I have to go back and find a third team.
Alrighty, well, let's see. Look, you can use your original team because that worked well, but
No,
you know what?
no,
I think
I'll change it up.
I think we might be running out of time here. Let's have to see how we go. But you know what? Nah. You guys are watching us play Mercenaries.
Quick.
Deal with it. All right. Whoa. Are you saying that is in terms of you're gonna make quick work of me? Or...
I'm not saying anything specifically by that. I was just offering to make it quick.
Okay. Let's see how we go then. I'm like, you know what? I'm trying to read. I think I'm reading too deep into that initial word that you just said there. I'm feeling that things now are definitely heating up a bit because you've lost. You've decided you want to hit me harder. That's what I reckon's happening.
Maybe.
Well, look, you know what? I've put my starting up there. I'm going back to Ye Old Faithful once again.
Maybe I just want to show people what's called a Hearthstone Mercenaries.
All right, so I feel like this is a tried and tested composition that you've put together here.
It might be. I might have been sandbagging in game 1. There's no way.
Oh no! What have I done? What can I do here? All right, let's find out. All right, let's go with something like this. Hopefully, I can make this work.
Hey, they said that you learn free loss. So I'm just really trying to help you learn this.
Oh really?
Game mode
Thank
faster.
you. I appreciate the education here. Oh my god. No, my healer! Not my healer, please!
Yeah, your healer.
Leave the poor healer alone, it's done nothing. Okay.
That's done plenty. It ruined my last game. I'm taking revenge.
No. Leave the healer alone, alright? You're supposed to attack the tank, alright? Look.
Oh, okay. We've got etiquette now.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's the game. There's a tank. Big person decides to, throw out insults at the person. There's the typical things, and Make it happen. Yes!
It does, that messes up my combo.
Yeah, let's see what I mean. The tank's got something to it.
It's because to get the double strike off on Blade Master Zero, the unit he hits has to have already been damaged this round, but the fish from Cookie doesn't get taunted because it's not an attack. So it actually splits up my combo attack. It's quite annoying.
Let's see what we can do here. Alrighty, let's hope this works. Come on, luckiness. Give me some luck. No. Come on. No. Damn you.
Oh. Okay, well you didn't shoot immune, guys, so that was a good read, but Samura's still hanging in there.
You know, I did shoot your immune guy. I think he just chose to go because it was immune and actually spread to something else.
Okay. I thought it might have just... I was hoping it would just have the damage, but yeah, it looks like it shot it. It hit Thrall instead for a critical, so I guess I can't win.
There you go. I mean, that's something. That's at least something here. I'm feeling a little bit better.
Oh, I have a feeling that my Blade Master may not be long for this world.
There's a good possibility on that one, my friend.
What can I do about this?
There is nothing you can do.
Okay,
your Blade your Blade Master is finished. It will fall.
All right.
And it's going to be the most, I believe, it is going to be the most humiliating defeat for the Blade Master as well.
Wow, okay.
And I'll explain in due time when it happens. You use your fish, boom. Look at that, the priest finishing off the Blade Master.
I knew I should have had Gramash here. You could have slowed your guy down with Shield Slam, but no such luck. Paul will take revenge, though.
How dare you?
Easily.
Alright. That's
how I dare. Alright, let's bring in someone else.
Let's see here. I mean, you got no choice. You have to. You've lost a member.
That's true. Can't deny you've drawn blood, but I'm still ahead, I think, and we can keep up the pressure.
Okay. Let's see what I can do here. I have a plan.
Okay.
I have a plan. Most people don't believe I would ever have a plan, but I've actually
cunning plan. All right.
A cunning plan. Let's see if it comes across the way I believe it should come across.
Job's done.
If it works out, I'll be pretty happy. So the plan is offensive route. Thank you. I don't know if that's any good for me or not.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not bad for you. I don't think. It's just this fish here.
Yep.
Oh my god! How is your arcane shot that quick?
Because Gramash has got an ability to slow you down.
Oh, the exact... Yeah, I was just referencing that ability before. I probably should have been on top of it. Unfortunately, Thrall's kind of slow. I don't think he has any fast moves, so... Dead to rights there. What can I do here?
That is definitely not good for me. If it dies, it's just going to destroy me. How do I get rid of that swordfish?
Oh, deal 6 damage. I haven't even seen that fish before. Right, Cookie bringing up some real special sauce here.
Ooh, got for Rune Totem.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that style. That looks...
Oh yeah, you can get some cosmetics in this mode as well. I happened to, I thought I had better use my shiny guff here.
Nah, fair enough. I completely understand in that sense. I feel like this Cookie has just got too many different variables I need to deal with.
It is cool.
See how we go. Oh, this guy can attack.
The swordfish?
Yeah, but it's got 0 attack.
Yeah, probably maybe don't do that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's my elite recommendation.
Yeah.
Do not
It can attack. It's got 0 attack, but it can attack.
See, as your official analyst for the day, you should not trade the 0-15 with a death roll that kills your team.
Fair enough. All right. Fair enough. I'll let that be the case.
Okay. Getting really into some serious trades down here. That's a lot of damage. He's just a chef.
Leave him alone. He just wants to cook some food.
Exactly. Very cruel.
Although, mind you, my Grommash is not looking the healthiest now. which is
Good.
unfortunate. What do you mean good? Leave him alone.
Not a big fan.
Not a big fan of the Grommash.
You know,
so I can make-
he's done enough. That shield slam on Brawl really hurt. I had a really nice turn prepared there. Now we're feeding fish to fish. The morale damage of enforced cannibalism is wearing down your swordfish.
Yeah,
oh
I can
my
see
god!
that.
Okay, Cookie's just gone. That's rough.
Oh no! All right, all I got now is I had to get rid of him. Man, it looks so healthy. You still have someone else on your bench.
Yep.
Oh.
And when Guth kills units, he gives permanent buffs to all of my remaining mercenaries. So that killing blow on Grommash was well worth setting up.
Oh no! What am I gonna do? I think I'm not long. I don't think I'm meant for this world. I'll just do this. Put us. We're not attacking with the fish. The fish, we're not attacking with.
Job's done.
Okay.
I don't have any extra orcs to like get extra stuff into. See, what's it called? That's an interesting thing here because you've got obviously good old Rakara there. She gets that bonus because you've managed to end it with like Grommash as well.
Yes. She has a bonus attack that triggers only if you control another orc. And she also has that bonus, which you just it gives your units a buff whenever they attack this turn. So Grommash has this like cleaving multi-attack that scales very well. You can put together some combos in this game. That's what I've been I was pleasantly surprised by.
You just sit in there. It's like every time
is.
you do a combo, it just like hits that dopamine like sector in your brain. You're like, yeah, that's the good stuff.
Yeah, the one light bulb in my big empty skull lights up when I say those numbers increase and your numbers decrease. Easy game.
Yep, fine. You got me, mate. I have to take that loss there in good stride. That being said, I believe we're gonna have a rematch. Okay, it's happening. And
like,
next time
next
I'm
week,
gonna be
right?
Yeah, next week.
Okay, all right.
Next week we're gonna have a rematch. And I'm
You
gonna be
gotta wait.
50 times more prepared, and you're going down, Bard. Okay. You're going down. Believe me. Look at my eyes. I'm not sure if you can see them, but they mean business.
I can see it's mildly intimidating. I was trying not to meet your gaze, this give you anything there, but don't worry. In the week, I will have some new lines to test on.
Brilliant. Well, you know what? I think the first one set up here as well. But before we do actually have everything, we do jump into that action. I think everyone needs to wind down from that high-octane action that we just brought at everyone in that sense. So, guys, we'll be right back. And when we do come back, we'll be jumping straight into the Open Hearthstone Cup. And we are back with the Hearthstone Open Cup. It's week 1, but I'm so excited to jump into it. Of course, everything that you are seeing today is presented by Blizzard, AEL, and supported by McDonald's. Now, we are going to be jumping straight into the tournament. It's going to be opened up, of course, with the Western Australian region, and pretty keen to see what these guys put into the mix. I believe it's going to be Scent and Maven Script jumping into the battles.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen some interesting lineups. We have the deck list now and a good mix of classes around. So that night game we were hoping would open up does seem to have arrived today. But our first matchup, what I can see, looks like a bit of a mirror.
Well, I'm looking at that in terms of what actually has been banned away as well, and there's definitely some little interesting parts there. So Maven's actually decided to get rid of the Druid for Scent. On the flip side, Scent has decided to get rid of the Paladin. And when I'm looking at these particular decks, that comes to mind, seems like it's going to be a secret Libram Paladin that's been banned away by Scent, and it looks like it's going to be that aggro Taunt Druid that's been sort of like jumping into the mix and causing a little bit of havoc in the recent meta as well. So I'm pretty keen for us to actually jump into this action as well. It does mean that Scent needs to use that Quest Mage. I believe it's Quest Mage and Quest Shaman, and Maven is going to be operating on the other aggro Taunt Druid available and another Quest Shaman as well. And we are jumping into that match.
Yeah, I'm really glad that the bans are sorted out because it kind of confirms what I'd suspected about Scent's approach to this whole tournament in regards to life selection, right? Because as you said, the aggro Taunt Druid really has been kind of the A1 deck of the metagame recently. And you would expect that, you know, if one player is going to ban that out of that deck, then both players will. But Scent actually seems to have picked his whole lineup around specifically counting out that Druid deck, right? So you make your opponent ban it, and then you have Quest Mage and Quest Shaman, both of which have a lot of early removal spells and other tools that help deal with the deck, and you hope to take that one out.
Well, as we are now jumping into that turn 1 here as well, we can see that both the players have decided to opt into using their Quest Shaman as their operation tools here as well. Looking in terms across the board here, not the best, I guess you could say, mana turn there coming across there, and just having a little bit of tempo. Does have that Alakir Windlord already into play, the Fire Elemental, so a bit of late game turns coming into it, but that curve is going to be hurting Maven just a little bit, whereas Ascendant, on the other hand, has a decent number of low-cost cards, should be curving relatively well and providing a number of things into it, and has already started that quest as well at the same time, that Command of the Elements.
Yeah, exactly. These Shaman lists, I believe, are actually a little bit different, right? We've got the Quest Shaman on one side, heavily spell-focused and a bit more defensive, or at least focusing on advancing the quest quickly more so than, you know, dealing damage to face. So I believe Maven is on just sort of the Elemental Shaman aggro plan. So the fact that right now the board is being kept roughly controlled, this enthusiastic banker is just sitting in play, stocking up cards, this is all really favorable for Scent, which is impressive because I don't know if this matchup, in terms of general ladder statistics, favors his.
Yeah, we definitely do need to see how that plays out as well. Can't think of it off the top of my head to see who would have be the favorable one here, but across the board here, we're going to see the action. Scent is taking a little bit of a pounding right off the back here. Maven is beginning to build up a relatively good board, already getting out that Primal Dungeoneer and, of course, the Gaia Worm. And as you can see, that means that the Candle Slogger is being put out in return by Scent to sort of slow things down a bit, get some HP back, because, of course, that lifesteal is there.
Yeah, it seems like right now the tools for Scent, I mean, obviously when you have a full hand, it always looks good, but between, you know, the Feral Spirit and the Devolving Missiles and having that Instructor Fireheart there when it comes time to really get a lot of value, it looks difficult to push through, right? There's really very little damage here on this Quest Shaman, and we're you know, steadily progressing that quest line.
Repeat that.
Well, continuing to move things still relatively even. Both players have very healthy hands as well. So we can look into the mix of that quest. Like you say, the quest line starting to come into play as well. We do have the Serpent Shrine portal opening up as well. And he's just pushing that a little bit further towards that next little bit. He needs to keep on playing those Overlord cards to get themselves into that next set, if possible. But
okay,
nice and chill at the moment. I don't see anyone with any real tempo lead right now.
It seems like if anything, Scent may have a slightly, but obviously Maven's deck has some pretty impressive damage and very powerful high-end elemental minions, so wouldn't count it out yet. But with the, you know, there's lots of healing in hand between the Canal Slugger, there's Taunt from the Spirits. I have to imagine that Scent's happy with how things are going so far, even sending back that tradable card last round, trying to dig towards more Overlord spells and finding them in that Perpetual Flame. Oh, this looks like a huge turn. Look at all these Overload cards ready to go.
Yeah, everything just seems to be like lining up now across the board here. So let's look to see how it actually does play out. I think my client's decided to have a little bit of an issue on the side here, so I've missed out most of the play. So you can go through it for me.
Right, we've got Sent really just taking some time to think about the sequencing on this test. There's lots of discoverable spells, mana crystal shenanigans with lightning, but we're going to start by discovering our way into shaman spells, finding another copy of Perpetual Flame. So that is deal 3 damage to a random enemy minion. If it dies, recast it, which we believe might be 2 triggers for the Overload quest line. A really valuable interaction to try and set up, but we're just going to go for some damage on the Arid Storm into the Feral Spirits. That unlocks the second part of the quest line, so Stone's complete, unlocks your overloaded mana crystals, and now they have one more quest line to complete, Tame the Flames. It's another 3 overload cards being played, and then you get the big payoff, right? You might think, well, what's all this questing about? We're going to unlock a 7/7 Stonecaller Brucan that gives you, for of the game, you double cast all your spells, which is
nuts, which is absolutely nuts, right? That's the whole point of it. This elemental shaman really coming into play when that really does come to it. And you want to hold on to your spells the entire time. And of course, having that healthy board there in place there, as you can see a number of minions now available for Sent, just to sort of hold that line while we're still waiting for that quest to come into play here. So seems to be a bit of pressure now being thrown onto Mavenscript, who really does need to make something happen.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you see your opponent getting back to their quest line being complete and you've barely dealt with the damage, their hand is still very healthy. You know, you are the beatdown in this matchup as the elemental shaman. I don't think that even a big Doomhammer combo, right, isn't going to punch down Sent from 20 hit points. So something needs to happen here to pick up the pace for Maven. It's just hard with so many wolves in the way.
Well, as I continue to push through now, you can see just continuing to shore up that board on the side of Sent here, just pretty happy with it, still thinking through it, understands that, you know what, I've got a little bit of leeway. I mean, 26 HP, I seem to be up there in the board there. I'm going to be the person with that huge payoff coming up soon. So definitely is happy to just continue playing out these overload crystals, getting those quests completed along those lines there. But it's putting more pressure onto Maven, who really does, like you said, needs to bring something down. Whether, even if the Doom Hammer is not enough, needs to start at least beginning to put a little bit of chip damage into Sent, so that way he's at threat of possibly being killed with a decent top deck. But that's the clear point here, is that if he's not at threat of dying at any point, he's going to happily sit back, relax, and not play any cards that he might be using as a finisher later.
So Sent, seemingly they're making a decision with the spending of the mana, even using the totem, actually avoiding cracking open that quest line right away. There's definitely the cards in hand between Lightning Bloom and Perpetual Flame to have made that work for you. But do you feel like there's a reason why you would intentionally hold off on, you know, Contract Stormcaller Brucan for a turn?
Because you want to make sure that you actually have as much mana as possible when you're looking for a massive turn kill. So the big thing here is that Lightning Bloom, of course, even though it creates that overload, does mean that you get those 2 mana crystals for the extra turn, which means if you've built up a healthy hand of spells, you can really unload in one case or one scenario here and actually stop there being any response or retaliation coming through from Maven. So if Maven does happen to have any healing spells, any ability to actually to stop those spells from deflecting or anything along those lines, won't actually have a chance to put down those defenses if you're able to unload all in one hit and basically catch your opponent off guard.
Right, so the idea is you want to edge right up to finishing the quest and then hopefully complete it right at the start of your turn with a very cheap overload spell, and then you can maybe even start casting like double Light Rune and really storm off.
Correct, yeah, and at that point you can just do a ridiculous combo in return when you do make that happen as
this
well.
This is looking pretty ridiculous right now.
I mean, like, Sen doesn't even need... He's like, I don't even need my quest, mate, at this moment in time.
Yeah.
I've got all these buffs across the line. I've got a huge board I can just jump into. You can tell Maven is holding on for initial combination of cards here. Typically what you do is you do for a massive Wind Fury buff, and you can just basically go straight for the face. But of course, he's got those 2 taunts that he needs to worry about, and I think now is really going to be forcing out Maven to begin to use those abilities. Otherwise, he's just going to be beaten down by minions over time.
Yeah, I mean, this is starting to get pretty close to onboard lethal territory for Sent. It's not quite there, but obviously any spell from hand, you know, Maven knows would be representing lethal. So there has to be some sort of board clear coming out here, but I don't know whether that's something that this deck can really produce. And then, of course, even if Maven is able to sweep all these elementals and other random minions, you know you're going to immediately see that quest ticked off and sent you some sort of combo kill.
Absolutely, but I mean, yeah, I feel like the race has been lost at this point. I feel that there is not much for Maven Scorpio to do at this moment in time, or Maven Scorpo to jump in and make it happen. He's obviously, you know, playing cards at the time, but he's thinking his way through, needs abilities to dig as well, but none of these cards actually allows him to get some extra card draw out into the field as well. The Lilypad Lurker is going to come down. It's going to start dealing with this board to a degree, but to be honest, it is just a stopgap at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a better play, obviously, if you were ahead on tempo, right? If Maven had been able to stay ahead on the board the whole game, which, like, by rights you should, right? You've got all these elementals. They have very powerful battle cry abilities and synergies between them. They have good stats. You're going up against, you know, defensive minions like the Earthen Ring Farseer and just random totem summons. You should hopefully be able to pull ahead of that with a dedicated aggro or mid-range deck, but unfortunately Sent just had the right tools in the first turns or took advantage of a slower start. And when you're behind on board and you're against a combo condition like this, it's very hard.
Oh, absolutely agree in that sense as well. And as you can see, Sent's just comfortably getting close towards that finishing line, continuing to play out and everything. See the Perpetual Flame also coming down as well. This should start to trigger, I believe, like you said, that quest really coming into those last final moments as well. It doesn't even need it. That's the crazy part here. I feel like now it's just a matter of him just slowly edging out the most of that damage into it. This is going to put Maven pretty much close to lethal, if not at the next turnaround. Perhaps this portal, the Serpent Shrine portal, might be able to buy enough time for Maven to hold out another turn and maybe look for an answer here, but it's looking dire. Yeah,
I mean, there's some pretty good cards in hand for Maven, obviously. You love to play an Alakir the Windlord, but you know that even if you were able to completely clear this whole board, you'd then still to somehow not die next turn to, you know, multiple double casts of spells like light. You know, the double lightning out of hand is going to get it done by itself at this point.
It's just, yeah, it's just interesting to say that because I'm looking through it at the moment here, and to be honest, this Quest Shaman should actually be the one losing against this particular deck, this Elemental Shaman deck that's being brought in here by Maven Scorpo. It technically speaking, you know, it takes a bit of extra time for the ramp up to come into play here, but Sent's done a fantastic job of actually just dictating the pace of the game.
Even manages to clear away the full board with a multi-cut.
Yeah.
Wow, just really rubbing
just
it
throwing
in at
down
this point.
as well. Yeah. Just throws down that. He just says, "Yep, no worries. Here comes the Stormcaller." And decides to just let him go there with a well done. And this is a pretty quick finish here for Sent.
Yeah, that's I think in the first couple of turns I had a really uncomfortable thing for Maven because, as you said, the matchup, right, just based on the match data, favored the Elemental Shaman over the Quest Shaman. I think that assumes that you get ahead on board quickly, right? So although if all that time you're trying to decide between, oh, do I play these overload spells to try and max out my quest faster, which lowers down my combo kill potential, or do I forgo completing my quest and I just try and fight on board against it that's better than me at that? You know, you sort of start losing on all sides, but because you got a little bit of a breather, a little bit of slow start out of Maven, cruisy for the Quest Shaman.
Yeah, and everything just seems to be going really easily here. So Sent definitely happy with that outcome. Basically played the harder combination first, probably, in terms of what he had to go up against. So does mean that now he's looking into that next round, just needs to win with one more deck. Have to have a quick look to see again, you know, what was banned away. I believe he still has access to his Druid, because the Secret Libram Paladin was banned away there by Maven. So that does mean that he's probably got one of the most effective decks to actually close this out. And that does mean that we are seeing what's going to be the Druid come to play. I imagine the Mage is what's going to be the response here from Maven.
Yeah, Sent has that set up in the lineup we talked about, where it seems designed. Just if you think that Aggro Druid is hands down the best deck, right? You think everyone's going to bring this deck, and it has very few losing matchups. So you make sure that your lineup is like the two decks that it conceivably loses to, that it has like a somewhat negative win rate against, and the Druid deck itself. And so no matter what combination of who you're playing, you're giving yourself an even or better chance to beat the Druid every time. And that's the deck he's got to beat. So, you know, on the one hand, Sent look like a genius if you do those here, but if you fail at all, then it kind of brings into question your whole strategy.
Absolutely right. But the other thing you have to take into account here as well is that aggro druid will also perform extremely well against the shaman, the aggro elemental shaman. Maybe perhaps we have to see actually how it does play out. But typically speaking, this aggro druid deck just seems to have a favorable matchup mostly across the board here. But this mage that has been brought here by Sent is a really good stopgap. Is really good at actually managing against the aggro druid. So it perhaps is going to make things very difficult for Maven to really jump ahead.
Yeah, really interesting. It's specifically an aggro druid counter, right? Even the other aggro decks, like the Death Rattle Demon Hunter or the aggro Shaman, do very well against this mage deck, but it is pretty successful against Quest Druid aggro druid over a lot of games, and it seems to just be about, the druid deck pretty much relies on its small minions. You can already see just putting as many bodies onto the board as it can. And often relying on stuff like Razormane, Battle Guard. Obviously, you'd rather that stay in same play for more than a couple of turns, really start discounting your hand. This mage deck is all cheap removal. Like, look at all these one-click spells. They're just going to immediately start clearing away the board.
You can see there a bunch of Acons being shuffled in, and like you said, just clears that board away. It's beginning to make short work of all these quick minions coming into play, and
even with the
Maven
coin,
is just continuing just to happy with that. And like you said, the coin as well into play is going to allow him to drop in that second flame as well. And even Maven's going, that was damn wild here. Manages to completely clear this board away.
Not quite. Immediately finds the squirrel again.
So he's going to get that on. And also gets the encumbered pack mule as well. Now, this is what's good about this one in particular, of course, is these Mavens are already shored up that minion board deck as well. Incantus Flow, nice and early here. This is definitely looking favorable for Sent here. Typically, when you can find that Incantus Flow nice and early into the game, does really increase your win rate dramatically. So that's probably something Maven did not want to see. But of course, Maven still has, a big race to play here. We're still relatively early into it. It's only, that first couple of turns coming into the mix. So now that we do have the next set of play, he's just going to happily continue to reshore up that board. And when I look at it on the side here in terms of the spells that are available, I mean, you've got the Cram Session, the Primordial Studies, and of course the First Flame here. Not the best to clear away the whole board, but you can start digging for some responses.
Okay, so we can discover our way into Steward of Scrolls, which will, I presume, try and discover its way Frost spell, since that's what Center is missing in terms of advancing the quest line. That you need to cast one each of Frost and Arcane for each stage of the quest line. But despite that lack of quest line progress, as you said, this is pretty much a dream start, right? Like, not only have you found that key card, the flow, very early on, that's sort of like this deck's legendary payoff. It doesn't quite look as impressive, maybe, but that's what the deck's trying to find. But it rewards you for dumping so many resources on turn 2 to clear or mostly the board. Because against an aggro druid, normally if you didn't have turn 2 that was that busy, you could not afford the temp hit of dropping the immediate flow. But now you've got that permanent discounting your spells for the rest of the game. You can see Arcane Intellect there, looking very efficient at 2 mana to play. And now we've even found Cone of Cold, so soon we will be advancing that quest.
And that's good that, like you said, managing to get just a little bit of extra terms in that sense there, but getting to really get that quest underway. But Sen is taking the time at the moment. He's actually happy to sit back and relax, really not play anything just off the back here. Both of these players just chilling out in most of the sense of it, and no real players coming into the mix.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay, just
Is
more
it gonna
mules.
I think you are seeing something that we're not seeing at the moment.
Me? Maybe.
Yep, I believe you've got it at the moment, this point in time.
I think I'm a little bit ahead, I believe. But right now, we're just waiting. It's another big turn, right? Just like on the other game, we had that eventually came to that climactic spellcasting term. It seems to be Sent's preferred playstyle, right? Between the Shaman and the Mage. Yes, they're both good against the Druid, but they're also both these sorts of heavy combination spell casting combo deck, and so this is where you want to be if you're that kind of player, if you enjoy that kind of deck, just sitting here with a handful of heavily discounted spells, thinking about your sequencing, thinking about how you're best going to survive. What isn't as fun for compared to last game is their life total, right? I mentioned that the pressure was the missing element for Maven. Even as Maven's starting to run low on cards in hand, and Sent's able to stabilize by freezing up the board of donkeys and such, we're seeing 7 hit points staying alive on Sent's side, right? We're casting Cone of Cold to freeze up the board, freeze Greybow, Legendary Taunt Treant, and the various mules as well, but there's still more ammunition coming out of Maven. Okay, so the last cut in hand posting, and so we're now at a position where he's been able to not quite finish off his opponent yet, but position him to have easy lethal on really any turn for the rest of the game, and there's no clear out in sight for the quest mage because all of these things will draw a card on death.
Well, I've managed to get myself back into the mix so I can actually see what's happening here as well. I can see here that Astromancer Solarian has now entered to the fray as well at this moment in time. I mean, down to 4 HP. This is looking extremely rough now for Scent at this moment in time. And really, I mean, you've got that here. It's nice to have it. Stall for Time seems to be coming into play here. That is definitely appropriate in terms of what he needs. That Flame Strike might be exactly what he needs to, or perhaps a bit of Freezing Power if necessary. But yeah, a Stall for Time is definitely what Scent is going to need at this moment.
Exactly, but you just stall for that much more time, right? This is another case where once you finish that quest line, you immediately get a massive power spike, and you for a kill in the next 2 turns, if not that same turn, right? You unlock that Arcanist Dawn Grasp, immediately +3 spell damage for the rest of the game, not to mention, you know, just a free 7/7. So we don't end. Okay, we do have that Flame Strike. It looks like that's gonna be lining up. Yeah, open with that. Open with that. Clears away the whole board, including Pesky Treant, but as you can see, going to be a ton of cards being drawn. So far, only one scroll. Okay, only the one scroll. Can we clear that as well? We've got Ruined Orb available, so...
No.
Face, okay.
That's unfortunate. You really do want that to be on the squirrel there, so this, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Durable as Infestation is then going to come into play as well. It's going to just buff up this squirrel.
Okay,
that squirrel really needed to be hit there at the very end there to get that last bit of damage here, and that does mean that Maven is going to be able to take it away with the aggro druid, which is good in that sense there. But of course, this is going to be putting it now at a 1-2-1. So next game is going to be what we're going to be looking to come into that mix as well. I'm pretty keen for us to jump into that next set of things there now. When I look at here what's available now, that does mean that all that's going to be left is, of course, going to be the Mage once again for Sense here. He needs to actually win with that one there. Maven has to go back to that Aggro Elemental Shaman here, and I feel like that's actually going to have a decent run against the Mage.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the... okay, well, I mean, if we're Mage deck, that's unfortunately not the matchup it was prepared for. But, yeah, the lineup that was brought there, unfortunately, you're hoping to beat down the Aggro Druid in that matchup, but it just goes to show the sheer power of the Aggro Druid. Even its bad matchups, right, are still sort of 40-60. You can easily lose, and just the way those Acorn cards got shuffled into the deck, right, you go to all the trouble of clearing the board on turn 2, only to immediately have your board uncleared by a random squirrel spawn, and then right at the end, the squirrel dagger in the heart there, even managing to dodge the removal.
Exactly.
That might have turned the whole match.
It actually would have made a difference there because, again, it means that he would have to put in another minion that would have slowed down the game. He might have been able to get something else, another spell to help slow it down, clear the board once again. And that's the thing. Like you said, finishing the quest as well would have made a big difference in terms of being able to use those spells, getting those massive payouts as well. So a number of things could have actually happened there if those missiles just decided to go towards a different member. But unfortunately, that's not the case here. It does mean that the Mage does fall down to the Aggro Druid, which we were kind of hoping wouldn't be the case here. It was supposed to be the stopgap against such a powerful deck, but again, even it has a pretty decent matchup. We're looking at roughly that 50-50 win rate between the two of it. So it is still a coin flip matchup in terms of the data that we've been looking at for these two decks. That does mean, again, we're going to be moving. We still have to see the Mage win, but we also have to see the Shaman win now as well. So it's going to be a bit rougher here now, I feel, for Maven, for Scent, who's using the Mage, because the Mage doesn't have as many good matchups in going into it. I think ideally the idea was, hey, I'm going to win with my Shaman, and then I should be able to close it out with the Mage. Didn't happen. Now that means that you're going into a more unfavorable matchup here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we talked about the tools that Scent has to deal with the aggro specifically, but those tools tend to fall off a lot against other aggro decks. It just seems like whatever the other classes have Aside from the druid, they're less board centric, they're less minion focused, and so right now you might be able to remove all of the early game elementals, but they're still getting their battle cry value. The shaman is still able to attack you directly with the doom hammer. There's just a lot of threats that you don't really have great answers for, and all you can kind of do is race towards your quest completion. But as we saw last game, it's a little bit slow sometimes.
Well, that being said, guys, we do have, I guess you could probably see beforehand there was a little bit of an observing issue there. So we'll be moving to a quick break and we'll be right back once we have everything resolved. So, guys, thank you very much for holding on with us. We'll be right back. And we are back with the Hearthstone Open Cup. I believe we have sorted out some of the little issues that we had beforehand, and we should be jumping straight into the action. We do have the game already underway. As you can see, we're already well and truly into the mix of the turns here as well. It is going to be sent again on that quest. Mage going up against Maven with the Elemental Shaman. A little bit more of an aggro deck coming into the mix here. And this time I feel Maven is actually running pretty much the cards that they wanted to get early on in the game up against what was, of course, a different matchup, a different thing against the other Quest Shaman that was brought by Set.
Yeah, exactly. This is a lot better of an opening, right? So I think we can safely say that game one Shaman was just a little bit of a disappointing draw. I was hoping to find like one key card to finish the curve that didn't show up, but this time the Mage, despite all its early removal, as I said, just like there's enough pressure, enough X bodies out of this Shaman deck to keep the damage flowing, and you can see it's fairly fast development of the curse. Of the quest so far on Sense side. We didn't get held up on frost spells or anything game one, but you're still, a whole quest away from finishing that quest line and getting a big payoff. And you're probably one turn away from lethal unless you can draw something pretty serious. That Spice Bread Breaker might not do enough by itself.
Yeah, I mean, the Spice Bread is also nice to just give a little bit of extra oomph to Scent in terms of that there. It does give you a bit of extra health, but no cards are in hand there, which means won't get the most benefit out of it. So again, it needs to be an idea of stalling down here. We'll be using that Shooting Star here to obviously deal with some of this board here. As you can see, it's going to clear a pretty decent amount away. That Blood Mage Thanos is providing a little bit of extra ability onto it. He's going to say, you know what, was it intentional? Probably not. But that means that we do get to progress this spell line or this quest line just a little bit further there. And that is very nice in terms of the choices there. This is exactly what is needed by Scent to continue to blow things through. But does actually go for the Wildfire instead.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying Wildfire is a bad spell, but like not only would that Shattering Blast to finish off the Fire Elemental, right? Like, you got to consider there's still another step of this quest chain to complete. Scent's whole hand is fire spells, right? There's no Frost, no Arcane. So I felt certain we would see one of the other two choices made, try and finish the quest faster, or to help, at least clear some of the quest while clearing some of the board. But we're all in on just trying to pressure this current board out of Maven.
Yeah, we can see it's just going to be throwing that back in as well just to clear it away. Of course, the Fire Elemental is still going to be frozen for that next round, so it does mean it will be slowed down at least for the time being. And I think Sense just relying on the fact that maybe I can actually slow things down a little bit more. But as you can see, more damage coming out here as well as the next Fire Elemental is coming into play and is continuing to shave that health off.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like maybe that Frost Spell was like your chance to get rid of the 7/5 body. Like even with the buff to the dash of Fire Blast, is going to be hard to get rid of. Ice Barrier, a great top deck in terms of staying alive. we're short of an arcane spell. And unfortunately, because we've waited this whole game, just not ever deploying the Spice Bread Baker, it's now too late for that card to really do anything. Could have maybe been in a spot to gain 4 or 5 health and, you know, have a body that would stick around while we're alive turn. But now we're just kind of on the last gasp effort, and thankfully, or Mage fans at home does draw the arcane spell off the top.
And that's something that he needed desperately just to continue to do that. He's going to get at least a bit of extra armor off the back here as well. So has roughly 8 effective health to chew through. Of course, here we still have, you know, the Serpentine Portal coming in to continue to shave off that HP down to 5 now as well. And we'll also at the same time get a Volpyro Toxin Blade just added into the mix. So Maven's still in a very healthy position. Has lost most of that tempo though, but has some pretty big cards to follow through directly afterwards. Of course, the Lightning Storm is only just going to deal damage to minions, but the Alec here, Windlord, can still do some pretty mean damage when it's put onto the field.
That's going to complete the quest. I'm sure Sent would have loved to see another arcade spell off the top right, because then your Arcanist Dawngrasp massively enhances your draw spell. But as it is, you're going to be happy just to stay alive this turn. Gains a little bit of extra life off that Baker, chucks out the Fireball. We haven't been able to deploy our Dawngrasp yet, but if Maven doesn't get the kill here, that could be a game turner, right? It's an immensely powerful card to get out of your quest. We do have the Whack-A-Null Hammer to go fast. That's going to be a threat, but not lethal, it looks like.
Nah, not just yet for the time being. Is probably thinking about holding onto that Lightning Storm, but will use it. You know what? Got a little bit of extra mana still available on the side there, so I might as well just throw into the mix, make sure that Spice Bread Baker is not putting any more extra value onto it. But now it seems to be the case here. Unfortunately, you're kind of hoping for a refreshing Spring Water there. That's initially what you would want to have here, but you know what? You're going to play that Arcanist Dawn. Might as well play it anyway, so here comes the play into it. Also has that Ignite available as well, just to do a bit of extra damage. This is where you can see that Ignite really being useful, because you can continue shuffling it back into your deck there, still getting a little bit of an extra out of it as well. As you can see now, with those little bit of extra bonuses from the Fire Blast, we'll at least be able to take it out there, but still has more than enough damage here now, especially for the fact that the Syrian Totems play.
Yeah, the classic, I've got this onboard lethal, but also Alakia the Wind.
Yeah. I might as well just play it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I would.
Like, it was there. I've got like ready to roll, but I might as well just play Alec here. Like that's literally what the thought process was in that scenario, and that does mean, of course, that we're going to be seeing a completely different setup here in terms of that they're coming across. It will be the Shaman that comes out on top, and that does mean that Sen unfortunately was unable to win twice with the Mage and does fall down towards that losers bracket. But on the flip side of things here, what that does mean, of course, is that we're going to be seeing at least Maven moving a little bit further forward into the tournament, and of course moving closer towards all those prizes.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, this is just week 1 of the cup. We're going to see, you know, work our way up to different states and really sort things out by the end. But if you can get yourself like locked in and qualified, that's a lot of time to tinker with your decks and of the meta and you know, really prepare yourself for the later stages. So it's a big win to advance early on, and I'm excited to see what Maven can do next.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said there, guys, we will be now going to a quick break. When we do get the next set of competitors ready to roll, please, guys, do not go anywhere. Into your deck there, still getting a little bit of an extra out of it as well. As you can see now, with those little bit of extra bonuses from the Fire Blast, we'll at least be able to take it out there, but still has more than enough damage here now, especially for the fact that the Syrian Totems play.
Yeah, the classic, I've got this onboard lethal, but also Alakia the Wind.
Yeah. I might as well just play it. You know what I mean? And we are back with the Hearthstone Open Cup presented by Blizzard and AEL, and of course supported by Maccas. If you're just joining us today, we are fielding the Western Australian Conference as well, so pretty happy to see what these guys bring into it. But unfortunately, due to some unforeseen circumstances, we've had a few players actually just pull out of the tournament, which means we are going to be fast forwarding straight to the finals, and it's going to be a repeat match. It's going to be Maven and Sen going up against each other once again in the grudge match there. I imagine Sen's going to be hoping for a bit of a different outcome from before.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, not the way that you necessarily imagine making the finals, but both players have like a quite astute strategy. We saw even in the first match, it was about as close as it could be, right? Went all the way to 3 games. So, whether or not Sense lineup actually sort of does what it's meant to right now and beats down the aggro druid aggro lineup, both of the finalists.
Absolutely agree. And with that being said, this means that these guys are putting themselves in a position to obviously get the final prizes, which ultimately is really nice for these players to be jumping into when they get the opportunity for it. I mean, when we look into account here, the first place is going to be up to about $400 here in card and deck prices there. So that's really nice in that sense of things. It's something that you want to be picking up if possible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just by getting there to that final stage, obviously making yourself a little bit of prizes guaranteed. It's a solid achievement, and card games is always a bit of an RNG element. So whether or not you sort of see yourself as a potential national champion, just by being in that final stage, you have a very shot. You never know what exactly will happen, how the matchups are going to fall.
Exactly right. And I mean, this is the thing that comes down to it, because we're having a bit of a discussion about this. If it was a best of 5, considering the field that has actually been brought into by Sen, right, in terms of the deck list, if it was a best of 5 and we're playing all 3 decks that were available today and there were no bans, we probably would have seen something completely different coming out of Sen here. I really, when I look at it in terms of what has been put together here, as opposed to the other competitors that have already competed in the tournament, again, we had a few of them unfortunately pull out. Most of them had the pretty standard builds that they were taking the most highest win rate decks into the play, whereas Set, I feel, put a little bit of thought into it. That's why he brought this quest mage. No one else actually brought a mage onto it, so it's really interesting to see this one come into the mix, and hopefully that does mean that perhaps we get that different sort of result coming out of it. I mean, not that I want to take anything away from Maven. Maven had played a pretty damn good hand before, really thought through the plays and everything here, but we should see something a little bit more exciting if the RNG goes a different way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it'll have looked bad in those last couple of matches for the Quest Mage, and as you said, it's not the deck that's been like the most broadly successful on ladder or anything like that. But there's a reason that Sense put it in the lineup. You have to imagine answers are a lot better when you've practiced it and you sort of know your opposition in the way tournament metagames work. So with slightly different opening hands, slight early game control, even just different squirrel RNG in that Druid game, I have a feeling like this lineup can do what it's meant to and take down Maven.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the whole point. It was to be that stopgap against that particular, very, very popular deck there. Now, I'm not sure if the bans have actually come through.
We've got them here, same bans as last game. So the Libram Paladin. Yeah, Sent doesn't want to see that. Understandable, right? Both of those decks rely on a kind of flurry of spells to end the game, but it's not like the most high damage deck. So I think the healing coming out of the Paladin deck is really intimidating him.
Yeah, especially against the quest mage as well. It definitely does struggle. I believe when I was looking at the stats, but in particular, it had roughly about a 40% win rate against the Secret Libra Paladin. So you really don't want to be going up against something like that when the I guess you could say the scissors paper rock matchup in that idea of that sense doesn't really go in your favor. You want to definitely be just bringing your strongest matchups if available, and that's the reason why we have seen Sen actually field this quest mage instead, which has been a bit different. Mind you, though, the quest mage is definitely still a very popular deck in terms of things. It may not have the most success against most other iterations available at the moment, but I feel a lot of players is going to be bringing that throughout the rest of the tournament when we do get to the other conferences.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's that kind of innovation that I love to see. Even if it's not ultimately successful, clearly we'll be seeing it later on in the cup. So I would like to see creative deck selection pay off, and I'd like to see that kind of strategizing, even if just to show that the most powerful decks in the metagame can be taken down, and maybe prepare for a more diverse spread of lineups as we go forward into the other state qualifier.
Well, I believe the players are pretty much ready to roll at this moment in time. I think we're going to be jumping into that match now as well. This is going to be the finals, guys. Like I said, we just sort of decided to fast forward through the whole day and get straight into it. It's going to be a rematch between Sent and Maven Script. So these guys pretty much have already qualified, but of course you do want to put yourself in a bit of a better position if possible. And now that we have jumped into that match here, it seems it's going to be a bit of a difference here. Instead of actually going in against both of the Shamans, that mirror matchup that we had before, it is actually going to be the Quest Mage going up against the Shaman first. And this is a real interesting point here, because we kind of said, hey, this Mage is designed to deal with that aggro Druid deck. If you win now on the Mage, that means you're going to have to actually win with your Shaman instead against what is considered to be a bit of an unfavorable matchup.
Yeah, I mean, both the Quest Mage and the Quest Shaman decks, I believe, do okay against the Druid, because they're sort of very similar in composition, right? They're both most concerned with being able to control the enemy minions with removal spells, and then you kind of win later on through your quest is sort of like a bit of an afterthought, compared to sort of linearly advancing your own plan. And it seems to me like that's the real logical through line of Sense deck selection. But on the same point, like playing the Mage into the Shaman, we saw this matchup did not go well for Sent in their previous rubber, and now if you let this Shaman deck past, that's sort of like your chance to beat it with your Shaman deck is a better matchup gone.
Yeah, exactly. But I think we obviously do also take into account here is that the Elemental Shaman does have a little bit of a tough time typically against the Quest Mage. So, I mean, just looking at the stats in particular. So this just means that Sen might actually be able to, play it out differently this time around. I mean, we are still relatively early into the game, but Maven's got a pretty strong hand there available in terms of that, just to clear away boards. Obviously, the Lightning Storm's not going to be the best against clearing away most of Sen's non-existent minions in the deck there, but at least does it have a number of abilities to actually overload and begin to progress other things in the future.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a situation which can be troublesome for the Quest Mage, right? The first couple of turns are very, very important in terms of how much damage you take and whether your opponent's able to stick anything to the board, right? There's a reason that this deck is atrocious and say Death Rattle Demon Hunter. It's because you really are relying on those removal spells sort of being healing spells. You need to not be taking damage after you spend all turn, cast First Flame and Brain Freeze, but looks like we will be able to, with this zero cost Ignite, mop up that Cage Match Custodian, and that actually does leave Sent in a good position.
So pretty happy, I guess you could say, overall with the ability to clear most of things away here. But again, I think Maven's pretty happy as well to just sit back, not take too much damage at the same time, and continue to build up what seems to be most of the abilities to actually finish off Maven in this scenario, or Maven actually finish off Sent in this case. As we can see here, we are just continuing to progress for that quest there. We'll actually also drop through the flurry. I was thinking about the flurry for the time being, just to progress that quest a little bit further, but Sent's still pretty happy. 24 HP is still moving along the board to getting to that big payoff that we've talked about in the past. So I reckon as things continue to go on, we'll be relatively happy with both their positions at the moment. Just Maven having that bit of extra HP is always a good advantage to have in the pocket.
Yeah, Sent though obviously, wouldn't say no to dealing damage. Obviously, that was a big part of getting weird in the previous set with the Quest Shaman, was being able to chip away at the opponent as well as progress. But the quest comes first, as well as preserving your own hit point total. Unfortunately, that turn was really awkward. Again, we're missing one of the 3 skills we need. No arcane spells available in hand for Sent, and I haven't watched enough of the Quest Mage to know sort of how reliably they can advance their quest line sort of in the first 5 turns or so, but it seems like Sent's having trouble with it today, and unfortunately still a mana short of that refreshing spring water that you would have really loved to cast. Has to settle for a partial clear and a freeze on the Arid Stormer, still taking that base damage from the Auction House Hammer, and now the Whack-A-Null Hammer comes down. So just the constant weapon damage out of the Shaman, no real answer to that. It is whittling away Sent despite keeping the board clear.
Well, we do have now that arcane spell that we were looking at before, the Rune Orb, finally come into the mix there, so that will begin to progress that quest line a little bit more. Of course, immediately using that refreshing spring water as well, just digging for answers to, of course, put himself relatively within this match against Maven Skurpo. Is going to clear away at least one of the minions, and does again continue to push that quest line into it. But now it has made it into that next bit as well. We'll have an option here to pick up the combustion, so looking for a little bit more wave clear as possible, but it's going to be very happy with the fact that it also has a frost, a fire spell. I believe there is also another arcane into it, so most of the stuff is ready to roll there, actually holding onto that Incanter's Flow and not using it to make everything else in the deck a little bit more efficient.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this, right? Like, Incanter's Flow is incredibly powerful high win card for this deck when it's in your opening hand. When you have the scenario in the last series where you're able to full clear on turn 2 and then play an Incanter's Flow into a mostly open board where you're only sort of using 2 to 4 health for it, right? Not the biggest tempo hit. Now, when you're under heavy pressure out of the Shaman deck, and you can't see, obviously, Maven's hand if you're sent, but you suspect there's a lot of direct damage there. The portal, the lightning bolts, maybe more wet, so you can't afford to take any more damage from the board just to land an Incanter's Flow, even if it completes your quest line, which we are now very close to doing.
And it really has all of the pieces of the puzzle as well. Like you said, the arcane spells are there, the frost spells are there. Can definitely drop that down, but since still, not looking for that big payout just yet, is quite content to actually just continue to clear away their board to protect that HP a little bit more, but Maven is just unrelenting, continuing to throw out those minions straight onto the board, and at the same time also put it down. Here we do have the Ice Barrier coming down, progressing that quest line just a little bit further here as well. Still has access to the Arcane, but will actually continue to use those fire spells as well, still valuing that HP just a little bit more.
Maybe, I mean, obviously it's hard to sequence things, exactly, but Sent taking a little bit of a risk, waiting that long, it looks like on the area, right? Depending on how much direct damage was in hand for Maven, you might have been in trouble, but as it is, there's not enough burn spell, and you sort of get this when the Seven Shrine Portal was cast last turn, that maybe your opponent does have a ton of burn, and so you're able to successfully get that barrier off to delay one more turn, and Maven is nearly out of juice. You can see when you start to play burns from hand, when you start to spend mana conjuring totems, when you're in this mission of really trying to end the games, the aggro deck, that's got to give Sent a lot of confidence.
Yeah, exactly. The idea of like, hey, you had a little bit of extra mana to play with 3, but you chose to actually use the Stoneclaw Totem, and we'll actually get the Stoneclaw Totem up here as well. But now we do have Sent finally pulling that trigger, does get that Arcanist Dawngrasp into play here as well, so now can actually drop that into the next turn, which is pretty good in that sense. And of course, we'll use that little bit of excess mana just to clear away the board for the time being. But with 13 effective health, might be looking pretty good here as well in terms of that they should be able to survive through another turn there. The Lightning Bolt isn't going to be the best in terms of that there, but it still is going to be able to deal 3 direct damage as some sort of finisher, and of course another Ice Barrier for good measure just to keep Sent in a pretty decent state.
Yeah, the double Lightning Storm draw from Maven, absolutely game-changing here, because, if those 2 spells were really anything else in Maven's deck, you maybe have the sense it would have been able to finish off Sent, but, pretty dead cards in matchup, and that's what's bought Sent time, especially as we continue to see, cheap 1-drop minions come off the top in the late game. That's not Maven needs to push this over the line, and, well, the game hasn't been completely decided yet. This begins to become Sent's match, right? All we have to do is find a way to close out the game, deal enough damage with these direct damage spells before Maven is able to top deck in, maybe another weapon or something that would finish the game off. We've already used Ice Barriers, so, Sent doesn't really have anything else to stay alive with. Gonna draw out one of those lightnings now to finish off the Arcanist, but he already did his job, and that +3 spell damage crucially sticks around for the rest of the game.
Yeah, but what was also really impressive about that spell damage as well is you can see how much it was able to do with that fire sale. If it wasn't for that additional spell damage, there is no way it would have been able to provide that extra value here as well. So even though, yes, the Arcanist is gone, but it doesn't matter, the effects are everlasting, and now we're starting to see all of the spells come into the mix here as well. And with the Discovery coming through with
5 cards with no mana?
Nice. Very nice plays here. As you can see, the Cram Session coming into it as well, just pulling out some extra cards as well. Basically, pretty much free as well. And this is what we wanted to see as the effect for the Quest Mage. This is it now in full swing. It didn't get to see it last time, but now Seth's pretty happy with the scenario here. You can see beginning to clear it away. Even Maven saying this is inconceivable now with the amount of damage that's starting to come out, and the payoff is well and truly there.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Like you sort of say it's a little bit less obvious than most decks, but this is your end game setup, right? It's nothing on board. It's all the permanent spell damage buff from the quest line, the multiple arcane flows we saw earlier, discounting all of this stuff. Even if at this point, even if you draw something like the spring water, right? It's heavily discounted. It's drawing you 0-cost spells. It's refunding you mana. You have a lot of potential to do full hit point damage in one turn. Didn't quite get what OTK there, but Maven unfortunately doesn't have anything left in the tank. Reveals the rest of the hand just to show you, yeah, I had no chance. I wasn't in it. That double lightning storm draw really costing the Shaman deck in the end, and we finally see Quest Mage get on the board.
Yeah, and it's good to see what happens when the Quest Mage is able to sort of hit all those initial requirements, basically get the planets to align, the eclipse comes into play, and it is mean. The damage was well and truly there in 2 turns. Basically, a full HP Shaman went kaput. So that was really impressive. Their play coming out of center to obviously survive. Things played out definitely a little bit better. And to be honest, you can definitely see scenarios where it does play out better for Sen. I mean, you get the Incanters flow a little bit earlier. Perhaps you get a little bit of extra defensive spells that you need at the right time. It wasn't really the ideal card draws coming across from Sen, but was able to make it work. And that does mean that we are moving into the next match. Now, Maven has decided to move into that aggro Taunt Druid instead there, as we are meaning to make that next play. And it does mean that Sent needs to now use the Quest Shaman here to actually overcome Maven and actually change things around, perhaps complete a full revenge story.
Yeah, exactly. Now this is the matchup we haven't seen so far between these players, right? Because in the previous match, Ent was able to win immediately with the Shaman over Maven's Shaman. So we have not seen this Quest Shaman deck put to what is pretty much the ultimate test in standard Hearthstone right now, the aggro Taunt Druid. And of course, that pesky squirrel that turned around the entire first is back on the board to start the game. So is Command the Elements, and I think the nicest thing here is, like, we've seen in just about every game, right? You talk about not ideal card draws. Sent has to really work to find like combinations of like Frostfire and Arcane spells to stay alive while also flipping the stages that Mage quest. It feels like this Shaman quest is a lot more forgiving.
Yeah, I mean, all you need to do is play Overload, right? That's literally
it's like most of your deck.
The shtick of this particular one here. You just basically say, yep, I'm just going to load myself up with a number of Overload spells, make sure that quest comes into play, and that way I can look for my payoff here. But of course, the big test is actually surviving the unrelenting damage that comes out of these aggro Taunt Druids. And, I'm looking at the stats now as well. Typically, it is slightly favored in the aggro Druid, but when I look at it, I mean, it's roughly about a 53% advantage. I honestly wouldn't rate that as too much there. I still think that Sent's well and truly in this match here, just based off the two coming against each other in terms of the decks that are being fielded right now.
I mean, if you're not the kind of person who looks up these sorts of metagame stats, it's some context important here. When we talk about having like a slight advantage, 53% or whatever win rate on the aggro Druid, that makes the Shaman deck a Druid counter as far as anything is, because like that's actually one of the better performing decks against aggro Druid. Aggro Druid has almost no losing matchups over large sample sizes of games. Obviously, it's not quite the same in a tournament context, but it just demonstrates like this deck isn't just like strong in a particular matchup or it's a particular kind of deck, or if it rolls high. It's insanely powerful, head and shoulders above everything else, and ultra consistent against all opposition nearly. The only thing that really gives it pause is the removal heavy spell focused quest decks, but you're struggling against double Watchtower here. You have to get rid of someone that commits the lightning bolt. And yeah, I don't know, the early play right now looks good for Maven.
You can see that he's going to actually just use it off the bat. He will, of course, further that Command the Elements questline a little bit further. Now it is up to Stir the Stones here, so Sent pretty happy with that overall, but maybe it was a little bit of an inefficient trade there. Typically, you want to be using them not on other minions that may be more of a threat, but of course, it is nice to get rid of those Watchtowers as soon as possible. The other thing we need to take into account here as well is that when you look at those large sample sizes that we're discussing, this sort of shows the iterations of the statistics, is that the fact that that is players across all levels. It is not like players at at these higher levels. And I want to I'd be fair to say anyone entering into these open tournaments is relatively serious in terms of their competitive play. They're probably ranked pretty damn highly into the fields there, and that does mean that there's going to be a little bit of difference there, because the most optimal decisions as those card draws are coming in will be played. Even if, with both of them being, they're both fairly straightforward decks in terms of the play. I get my quest, I start overloading. I get minions, I pile them onto the board and deal as much damage as I can play. The fact that you're able to say, you know what, there is just a little bit more efficiency, you know, perhaps playing or holding onto this Firewatch postcard a little bit earlier or playing a little bit later does make a difference in terms of those stats, and that does mean that we might see different results in competitive play.
Yeah, exactly. Not to mention, right, it's a more subtle concern, maybe, as you said, not necessarily a thing with a deck this straightforward as we see Maven just out of nowhere, seemingly a huge wide board and tall as well, buffing up with that Arbor up. What a little card. I don't know what Scent has. No Lightning Storm available now. Might have to try and discover one. But yeah, in general, when you have a tournament lineup that lets you play really different deck and card choices, because you can say, well, I might have a card that automatically loses to Quest Mage or something, right? Like there's some card that's terrible in a specific matchup type of deck, and you can just say, well, I'll ban that deck every time I come up against it, and that lets me get away with something like Scent's lineup, which is, you know, quite narrow and focused on beating particular opponents. So that can also change the math, but it doesn't really change the math there. That was brutal. That was the split
Arbor up, yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, there was just like out of the blue, just too much to deal with. Basically, everything lined up at that exact moment, put everything together. Even I was looking, I'm like, is that lethal? Nah, Bart's talking at the moment. He's having a chat. Like, I'll let him go through. He's got a really important point to finish. I'm like, but I'm thinking that's lethal, and then sure enough, it comes across, and that is literally going to be.
I just didn't want to acknowledge it. You know, it's too sad. This aggro druid deck is just such a machine, right?
Yeah, it really is. It basically is, you know, like a production line of minions just popping onto the board, being buffed as they go through as well. And if you sort of need to survive at least the first 5 turns. If you manage to put yourself in a favorable position at that point, I mean, even if you're down to say 10 HP by turn 5, and then you got a way to get yourself back up, that's probably enough to say that you've well and truly weathered that storm. But unfortunately wasn't going to be the case here for Scent. That does mean we are going to be playing all 3 games, and that means Vaven now is retired what is going to be the Druid, of course, being able to win there. And it's going to be how we started the day is actually how we're going to end the day. It is going to be both the Shamans going head to head.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Scent, you know, still definitely in it, right? This matchup in game 1, Scent won pretty handily, despite the odds being, in theory, against the Quest Shaman. You know, just like it'll come down the right draw, and if you have the right tools in hand, and double Feral Spirits looks like quite a decent stuff up your sleeve. I'm going to go, wow, straight into that, of course, because if you're able to complete the quest line right away like this, it's going to unlock all of those overloaded mana crystals and essentially leave you with no drawback for what is a massive early game turn.
Yeah, even Scent realizes, you know what, this is huge in that sense of that. Well, even Frozen there, my sincerest gratitude right off the back in that sense there. And as you can see, you know, gets the overload, the quest put into place there, already has a relatively healthy board onto the mix. Maven's like, you've already got 2 Feral Druids out. Like, what's going on here?
Yep.
I'm throwing out the Cage Match Custodian. You know, typically it's nice because it draws out the weapon. So of course we do get an auction house gavel now in hand. Probably was hoping for something a little bit better, but of course the auction house gavel is nice earlier into the game. Does mean that it goes well with the mana curve. And as you can see here again, it's just continuing to pile on. Another Feral Spirits goes down onto the play here as well, and that is a very healthy board here available for Scent.
Yeah, this is what happens when you high roll, right? Like I was going to see. Unlike in the first game, like it's a bit sad that since decks haven't been able to beat the aggro druid in either of these sets, which is kind of what you assume the lineup is meant to do, because we were able to steal a win with the quest mage earlier. If Scent can, reclaim the scalp of this elemental shaman as he did in the first series, he's home in our grand final. And I mean, if you're looking back to what was instrumental in setting up the win for the quest shaman the first time around, having early board control like this is pretty much it. So I can understand going all in on that first turn, because look at how you're able to snowball that board control and maintain the dominant position with the spirits.
And the other thing as well, getting some cards allowing for extra digging means that even though Scent did relatively go down early with that tempo, losing most of the hand to make it work, has already recovered back from it. I mean, look, it has managed to pull out at least 10 cards out of the deck already. Is looking pretty happy with overall with the scenario, which means we'll have answers in the near future. And it's still, like you said, maintaining control of the board for the time being, continuing to eke out a little bit of extra emphasis out of it. I mean, if you're able to bring down your opponent even further in this sense there while still completing your quest, Scent must be really happy.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, right now this looks like a terrific position for Scent. We're just basically considering, since we're at 30 health and have control of the board, what is the most efficient way to keep developing my board so that maybe never get back on plan A of damaging my face, but also just pretty much race through the quest line now, and that's what we're doing, straight on to Tame the Flames.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, you could have obviously used that portal there to actually get rid of the Arid Stormer as well. So at the same time, there could have been a little bit of a difference there in terms of what's happening, and you could see Sense like, no, I'm still valuing actually getting rid of that face damage here as well. Even Maven's like, damn, this board is starting to get a little bit unmanageable and is now beginning to use the hero effectively to continue pushing things out, but unfortunately, there's still a pretty wide board there. 3-2, 2-1, 2-4, 3-3. Does have that lightning storm, so finally a little bit of a breath air can come across and actually deal with most of it, but that still will have the lone champion standing in position for the time being as well. And I think Sen's still pretty happy overall with this because we'll just begin to summon up that board once again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Sent, yeah, look at that, man. I'm just kind of how effective these Canal Sluggers have been in all of these games. The 6 power rush lifesteal, like, yeah, Overload 1, but that's an upside in this deck, and both times I've seen this Shaman Mirror, the multiple Canal Sluggers have just been so good for Scent, because, like, as you can see here, both players have them, but Maven doesn't really benefit by dragging the game out like this, and just having Canal Sluggers of your own does not actually make it easier to kill Scent through these trades. Just sitting on 30 life the whole game must be such a nice place to be for a quest deck like this.
Yeah, but Maven as well has managed to at least get a little bit of extra health underneath that deck. You can see trading out those Canal Sluggers does mean that Maven gets the HP back, while at the same time not giving anything there to Scent. Of course, you're already at max HP, why would you need any more? Scent, once again, continuing to gain control of the board here by clearing it, still has a relatively healthy hand as well, and is continuing to push this quest that little bit further, and now has access to that Stormcaller Brucana, and this is where things start to get really dicey for Maven.
Yeah, it must be nice to cast that discovery spell there as the quest shaman, and just always immediately without looking click take both an Overload 1 option on the right, just put both the cards in the hand, don't even look at them. You know, we're here for the Overload trigger, and sure enough, that now leaves Scent just one step away on that evil master plan from potentially closing this game. Maven has a couple of strong cards left in hand, but yeah, only those 3, so starting to run out of juice, really hasn't done that much damage, and here that sort of parity breaking effect, not just a 5 mana 7/7, but you know, the double casting as well the rest of the game. Gonna have to wait a turn to get clear of those overloaded crystals, since the last stage of the quest does not unlock them as the early stages do. That they decided giving you the 7/7 was maybe enough of a reward, but yeah, you can see the urgency from Maven realizing how short time is now.
Yeah, you can see right at this point decides to actually throw down another Canal Logger at the same time. Does get back up to 23 HP, which is nice here, but this means the Canal Sluggers here for Scent can actually start getting some extra value. Of course, trade out what's on the board there and recover most of that HP back. The Serpent Shrine Portal is going to be nice for Maven to actually look for some digging potential, and of course the Fire Elemental there sitting in the backwind means he can continue to do more to the face. But Scent saying, you know what, you want to go to face, I can go to the face as well. And as you can see now, just to throw out that damage left to right and begin to really wear down at Maven at this point.
Okay, had to think a lot. Wait, the sequence here is.
Yeah, you can really see the because basically by playing that portal was able to actually summon up 2 minions in return there, of course with the effect of the Stormcaller.
Yeah, finishes with the spell damage minion though.
You can see, even he knows it's well done at this point. Maven realizes, I don't have anything there. Puts out as much damage as possible, but there is not going to be much response here. No taunt minions, no spells to actually stop anything from happening here. And Scent's happy to continue trading it out.
Okay, alright. That's why last turn looked a little funky, but setting this down to the damage went like, how can I win the coolest way next turn? And the answer is double cast, unlock my mana crystals.
He was just literally like, why would he do that? That makes no sense. That's nowhere near as efficient as it would have been as before. But needless to say, it does mean in the end that he will be able to take this out. Going to be the higher seed there by Scent and just sort of completing the revenge story in return. So pretty good in that sense. Good to see you back as well, Bard. There,
Yep.
you were looking a little bit dark before, but now you seem to be well and truly lit. And overall, how do you feel about how that one played out?
I mean, if you're going to watch 6 games of Hearthstone like that, I think that was like a really interesting. We kind of got every possible flavor of the interactions between the decks, other than aggro druidizing. But I did say every possible interaction. Maybe impossible for that deck to lose at the moment. Harking back to what you were saying at the start of the day about the aggro. But when it comes down to the secondary deck choices, we did get to see some really interesting stuff, right? Like Quest Mage and Quest Shaman, not what you'd imagine are like the most popular or tip choices, but Scent made it work.
Oh, absolutely right, and that's the big thing that we're talking about. Even that discussion that we said, hey, even though perhaps these don't have the best win rates against each other, it could be different here in these higher levels of competitive play where people are really understanding the card draws that comes into it, and those high rollings from the start from Scent really just set it up for success. That was the big key thing that we need to take into account here, is that initial start there could not be any better for Scent there, and that does mean that Maven was basically on the back foot the entire time.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, right? Like, we're not taking anything away from Scent as the winner, but it's just sort of like it's important to look when you're trying to analyze how that went, right? When you're trying to prepare maybe for the final stages of this cup, and you sort of, what did I do wrong? What do I have to improve? Sometimes you just can't do a lot, right? At least in that matchup, with that super early Feral Spirits play into unlocking your Martis, casting another one. There's really not a lot you can hope for. And even in the other match in that grand finals, having those multiple Lightning Storms stuck in hand, it would have been great to have the Lightning Storms in the Shaman mirror, but fortunately the cards did not fall as they were needed to slow down those quest decks for Maven.
Well, that being said, though, we will get a little bit of information from Scent just coming up very shortly. We do have a player interview, so guys, please just hold on a little bit further there. We'll be right back with that player interview. And we are back with the Hearthstone Open Cup. It's week 1, and guys, we are bringing to you now Scent, who is going to be the winner of the Western Australian Conference. Scent, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can. Definitely well there. How you going today?
Pretty well, how are you?
Good, mate. I mean, look, we got to see the fantastic gameplay coming across there. I think things were a little bit different initially beforehand, and because beforehand, obviously, you didn't actually overcome Maven before. How do you feel now, being able to come through and actually get back a little bit of revenge?
It's kind of funny. In game one, my computer was lagging a bit, so I didn't see the
Oh,
last
no.
squirrel hit the board in the mage matchup. So in the druid matchup, so I was like, okay, hit face, let's go. And then I see the squirrel pop up, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I did wonder about that. That explains a lot. That was a really big dice roll at the time. But wow, okay, glad then that you're able to bounce back from that a second chance, which you took full advantage of. I wanted to ask about your lineup, mate. It's really interesting classes you've chosen. It sort of looks like you're just trying to that aggro druid as hard as possible, which is not, I think, most people's approach to this meta, but it worked out for you.
Yeah, so I kind of was like, I was talking to a friend of mine, and the thing we came up with was like Druid is just probably the best deck at the moment. So I think if I just beat Druid, then I should have a good chance against all the other decks. And my plan was just to ban all the big decks like Paladin, Warrior. If I see any of those, just get rid of those. And
yeah, I mean, that's one way to deal with it.
Yeah, win quick.
Well, the thing is, like, now this is what what you're thinking about. Sorry to interrupt you there, Bard. I was just thinking about this. What if other players start doing what you have there as well? Because then all of a sudden, there's no Druid deck to okay, they're not running Druid. Oh no, they're not running Warrior. They're running like my ones here as well. I guess at that point, I'm literally just going to be the better player on the day.
Yeah, I mean that's I guess how how I'd look at it. Or luckier player, I guess. I mean, the mage is definitely kind of reliant on you getting your spell schools in order, and those two games just wasn't happening. I was either missing Arcane or missing Frost, so I might have to fix that a bit. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, I think it just comes down to the better player.
Yeah, I haven't had much experience with the Quest Mage, Nick, but yeah, we know it was like visible even from your mouse movements, right? Like the sort of digital body language, just watching you longingly mouse over the spring water on turn 4, or trying to figure out how those schools are going to match up. You know, just you feel for it as a fellow card game player. It's like, can't things just go right? But you managed to navigate it decently well despite that RNG. Would you say you sort of low rolled those, or is that sort of it's always a bit of a struggle? You're relying on the quest discover triggers to get there with deck?
Yeah, well, I tested kind of a lot like for the past couple of days leading up to this, just to try and get myself sorted and make sure I have a good plan going in. But yeah, definitely low rolled mage. But the shaman worked out well for me, which was good. It's kind of exactly what I wanted to come out of it. So that was awesome. Yeah,
absolutely.
I kind of expected. Sorry, I kind of expected slightly better out of the druid matchup, but that didn't work out as I wanted to. But we'll reapproach that later.
Well, with all things being said, and I do want to ask, how are you enjoying this tournament so far? And would you, given the opportunity to jump into another tournament, would you jump in again?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a lot of fun. I love the tournament setting. Coming from other card games in the past and kind of just moving to Hearthstone in the past couple of months, almost exclusively. I have a good fun memories of playing tournaments. So this is awesome. Yeah, and it was great being on stream. Never happened to me before, so it was kind of cool playing under that little bit of pressure, even though it shouldn't make me play different. I feel like I play a bit different on stream. Bit of pressure, bit of heart palpitation.
I mean, that's what stakes do to you, right? It's that top table, bright lights, even if they're virtual lights in this case. And so I just wanted to pick up what you said is really interesting. Like, obviously, I hope to see some more of your play on stream because you do look to have a lot of practice just with sort of card game fundamentals. What is it about Hearthstone's meta in the last couple of months that sort of drawn you into this game to focus more on Hearthstone?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's kind of just been more of a matter of like, I don't really want to, I don't really like the way any of the other card games I played were going. I wasn't really too interested in Hearthstone's meta when I first got back into it with the Warlock, when Warlock was really big, with Quest Warlock and stuff, and I was like, this is just boring. But once that nerf hit, everything kind of flourished and everything feels a lot better now, a lot cleaner, a lot nicer. So I'm really glad for that.
Even the sort of aggro druid being dominant, you're sort of confident that we'll see the meta develop past that in the next few weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my view is when you see aggro decks start to take over, then you start to see control decks come in, and I love control decks. So with that kind of natural progression, that rock paper scissors progression, you've got aggro now, and now soon we're going to start seeing twisting nether come back into the meta, and we're going to start seeing like just all these kind of natural progressions that I really like. And so when aggro is there, I'm like, control's just around the corner.
There you go. Absolutely ahead of the curve, that being said. And it's really interesting, you take that into account, because a lot of people are saying with the introduction of the mini set that come to it, the Dead Mines, that might have actually slowed down the ascent of those particular decks coming into the mix, those controls coming into it. Do you think that's the case, or do you think there are definitely some tools in there to actually help out with your particular playstyle?
I definitely think that there's some work that needs to be done to make it work, but I think that there are going to be ways to make it work. I mean, especially with looking at Warlock cards, for example, they have a lot of removal tools. It's just kind of a matter of figuring out what the right kind of lineup of cards are. Maybe playing Blood Mage Thanos and those decks again. Just all those sorts of thoughts pop into my mind, and I'm always trying to theory craft and see what happens with that. But normally it fails. But we'll see.
That's definitely exciting in that sense, mate, because I mean, there's just so much happening with there as well. And out of curiosity, how long have you been playing Hearthstone? It seems that you definitely have a massive history behind that.
Yeah, my first time I picked up Hearthstone was Whispers of the Old Gods when that came out. Approximately one night in Karazhan, that expansion when that came out. That's when I started, and it's kind of been like an on and off thing since then. I think I really started going to get into playing Hearthstone every week, or at least every day, or at least every week, probably about when Ashes of Outland came out. So I've been able to play out this whole set rotation, which has been good. Seen a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but yeah.
Brilliant, man. Brilliant on that one. Well, thank you very much for all your thoughts on that, Sen. Really looking forward to seeing your style continue on with the tournament. Like you said, if aggro is literally there, controls around the corner, and that seems to be right up your alley. So we're expecting some pretty cool things from you when you do move into the next state of the competition, my friend. So with that, anything you want to say before we let you go?
No, thanks for hosting. Thanks for the great commentary, and yeah. I hope to see you more soon. Maybe chat more soon.
Absolutely, mate. Well, don't worry. We'll be just right around the corner there. Catch ya.
Awesome.
Well, Bard, that being said, though, I believe we do have another interview ready to roll as well. So I believe we do have Maven sitting in the corner there to bring up as well. While we're just waiting for that to happen as well. Bard, what do you think about everything that's happening? Because I'm really excited as well just about this tournament, how it's progressing.
Yeah, I mean, I love that interview from Sent. That's really everything, sort of going through my talking points for me, which makes me look very smart, because now I have opinion as a tournament-winning multi-card game expert. But yeah, the natural flow of the metagame, right? It's obviously in the early days of a new expansion, it can be disheartening when a deck like Druid it's a very straightforward aggro deck. It gets figured out very quickly, and it takes a bit more time with the counter tech. But even if we didn't see Sent go through today, he seems very confident about his deck choices and about the fact that sort of some of these control tools will spread in popularity, and you might see, a gradual evolution and move from week to week through different state qualifiers. It means that, potentially showing up and seeing a different set of decks every week. What more could you ask for?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that as well. We do have the bracket available as well, just so you guys can see the journey that has also happened here today, just to let you know how it happened. Now, as you can see there, we did have, initially Sent going up against Maven, and it was going to be a 2-0 there, Maven coming out on top. But then, of course, directly afterwards, that ended up being the players pulling out of the tournament, unfortunately, which means that we did move very quickly into the finals, where Sent was able to come out on top once again. Well, not once again, was able to actually overcome Maven and bring back a little bit of revenge there. So how are you feeling about this so far, Bard?
Well, I'm a little bit sad that obviously we lost Cool Kid and Crush Rush but each having to deal with
Yep.
obviously some very important personal stuff. But those decks, we could have seen even more exciting stuff, right? There's a Demon Hunter list I really wanted to see clash with some of these decks. The classic Rot Rogue Cool Kid really backing themselves up really well on a deck that has it's like a very skill-intensive deck, doesn't have the best win rate right now. If you're showing up with the tournament, it makes me immediately want to see, what sort of confidence you have. But, the match is not to see. I can't ask for anything more, and it does mean that we're going to have two, clearly very thoughtful and experienced players moving on. So that kind of just leaves me looking ahead. What can we expect from future qualifiers when we start to see a bigger field and players who have had more time to figure out the expansion? By the time we get to New South Wales and Victoria, these are going to be big brackets full of players who have had a lot of time to craft their lineups.
Well, we are just waiting a little bit further to get Maven in there and get it ready to roll as well. And again, I couldn't agree any further with you, but I mean, there's a lot of things still happening in the mix of this year. We have people are still figuring out what really does this mini little set expansion they brought into it with the Dead Minds means. I mean, we didn't even get to see any of the parrots come into the mix of it as well. Another thing that you mentioned was the fact that we also have like a rogue deck that was sitting around that could be something that it comes into play as well, has a little bit more control. Plays that really back themselves is something that I also personally would love to watch. And another factor that we can also take into this count is we didn't even see the Face Hunter. Face Hunter, honestly, is a very simple deck. Very good at what it does. I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to keep trying until I kill you. And if I don't kill you, I'm just going to leave the game at that point. You don't even need to worry about finishing me off. I'm pretty happy with that case. That was also something that we might have been able to see today, but unfortunately didn't get that opportunity. These are still decks that obviously can, change in win rate as this competition goes into it. And it also means there's also that little meta for the competition that begins to evolve over time because, of course, I imagine we do have players from the other conferences watching in, looking to see, what was actually fielded today, what's something I'm going to have to look forward to into the future.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, if those predictions we heard earlier are correct and control starts to come back, right, we move a little bit away from the aggro taunt druid. Maybe that's when we're about to see the cards from that mini expansion, right? Everyone's been talking about Mr. Smite, the sort of the new big neutral charge finisher legend. That's already in a lot of decks. If you start to see people move to these sorts of combo or quest-based decks that are doing a lot of spell casting, just trying to rely on keeping the board clear, that's when your charge pirate can shine. That's when we're going to see some big lethals come out at the end of the game and really keep these control players scared for their lives. So that's the kind of evolution that I hope happens, but really it's hard to say, right? It's such early days right now, and there's a lot of deck concepts that people are exploring on ladder or on streams right now to figure them out.
Well, that being said, Maven, I believe you're here. Maven, how are you going today? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, definitely can, Maven. How are you going today?
Doing pretty good. I was scared I was going to sleep through it, to be honest with you.
Really? Had a little bit of a, a long night before, just crunching the strategies and the decks so you could be completely prepared and almost missed the actual tournament on the day? Something like that?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Maven, you obviously came through. You had a very convincing first round against Scent there. Do you honestly believe it was that idea of like high rolls that came into play there, or were there actually a few missed opportunities for yourself, do you feel?
Oh, I feel like I made a couple of misplays, but nothing too major.
What do you feel like your opponent's lineup? I feel a bit bad for you having to run into Scent twice after dispatching the first time, because it feels like that lineup is kind of built to have a good win against yours.
Yeah, I was really like not enjoying the Shaman matchup that I had there. I was just struggling to get through him. He was just controlling everything I put down. It was hard to play against. He played really well.
Well, I mean, he definitely high rolled at the end, at the start of that particular match, where he was able just to immediately, basically overload, get the quest up and rolling, and then also get the feral spirits out, basically back to back. I would love to know. Well, when you saw that, I believe even you said like that's what even put him right there. Like, what the hell? What's going on here?
I was very surprised at that one. That one caught me off guard, definitely.
Yeah,
I was expecting that 2-3 spell burst. I was expecting some shenanigans with that mixed with lightning bloom, just to gain a bunch of mana crystals, and then he does his first part of the quest. clears all his overloaded mana crystals. That's sort of what I was expecting.
They came out with something completely different. It
Yeah.
kind of feels like a turn 1 or turn 2 guardian animals in the previous meta, where it's just kind of like, oh, great, you got a 6/6 out now. That's nice. It's only turn 1. I got nothing I can really play. That's literally sort of like kind of what it felt like as a sort of something to match it up to. But going back into it, mate, I want to ask, how are you feeling so far in this tournament in terms of the play there? Are you thinking about changing things up? Because of course you are through to the next round. That's very exciting in that sense. You may have fell down at the very last hurdle there, but you're still not out of it. Are you going to be changing up your deck as you go? We had a discussion that perhaps control decks might be the way in the future. What's your prep looking like?
Might just sit there, play test a little bit, see what I like, see what I enjoy. I haven't actually played that Paladin yet. I just put it in to try bait out his ban so that he didn't ban anything I did like playing.
It worked. 100% worked.
Yeah.
2 back-to-back
I was happy
bans.
when I saw that ban.
And again for the second time, you're like, oh, thank God. Can you imagine that now? If Sen's listening to this interview, you're like, oh man, I should have left the Paladin. Oh no.
Yeah, I let him know once he actually picked it the second time. I let him know. I was like, oh, thanks for banning it.
Damn. So you've even got the mind games on lock. That's some good tournament prep going in there. But obviously, with a bit more time, hopefully by the time to the latter stages of this cup, you'll have like a solid 3-deck lineup you can really believe in.
Yeah.
Do you sort of expect that you'll be playing those same 2 decks again, or are those just sort of decks you felt confident putting together early on meta, and you're going to wait to see what you like as you get more playtesting in?
Towards the start of the season, I really enjoyed that Elemental Shaman, but playing it today, it didn't feel as good as it used to. And especially with the mini set coming out and the meta being changed, I might sop up the deck. So I think I'm definitely going to run that Druid still. That was working really well.
Yeah.
Oh, I think, on Catch we even said that Druid just felt like a literal production machine of consistent, effective damage, and really easy to put out. And you're just like dropping it down, armor up, continue that, another buff. Would you look at that? I got a long board immediately that I'm just continuing to pump through, and it just felt like it was endless. So definitely, you can see why not only did it do well in the tournament, but effective throughout this. Throughout the say, moving away, from the decks from the meta. If this tournament, was available again in the future, would you jump into it? Would you like to see any changes going forward as well? I mean, what would you like to see from the Hearthstone tournament scene going forward as well?
Yeah, this is my first tournament I've ever been in, and to be honest, I had a lot of fun today. But next time, the only thing I could really change is I hope more people come into the WA bracket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw the deck list and I was like, oh yeah, it's good. Yeah, and then a bit of variation, but then it was just this one other person which I versed. Not much you can do about it though.
Absolutely right, because again, some of it was unforeseen circumstances that came through. We also wanted to see those decks get piloted as well, and I think, as long as we can get more tournaments out there, the players will come. That's the big thing as well. So hopefully we can do that. Mind you, you will have, of course, a much more cutthroat competition coming up when you do go up against the next conferences. So hopefully that will sate your need for having a little bit more variation going forward.
Yep.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Maven. Can't wait to see more from you into the future, which we will be seeing when we do move towards the states coming together. Apart from that, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Okay, mate? You have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
All right, Bard, how are you feeling now at the end of this? We've seen 2 players here that seem to definitely have their heads screwed on, ready to roll for the competition. Maybe some changes will be happening to those decks as well, I feel, going forward.
Yeah, two great competitors. What we can tell in those interviews, really solid attitude. Seem to have their heads, as you said, screwed on straight about the metagame. And obviously we all share the thoughts of Maven there at the end. It would have been nice to see the other decks, see the other players from WA representing. But we do still have the 2 representatives that we need from the state to go forward and wave the WA flag in that sort of interconference finals, as you sort of foreshadowed at the end there. So we're looking forward, not looking back. It's a nice little appetizer, and in the coming weeks, we will see some real fireworks out of this Hearthstone Open Cup.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, in the coming weeks there, we do expect to be back on Saturday, November 13th at 10:15 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. We'll be covering the Queensland and South Australian Conference there. So we do really want to see you guys there as well. Actually, we're around 10:30. We'll be starting that stream live as well. So definitely jump in and see the action coming through next week. Apart from that, though, guys, that's everything from us. A massive thank you to Blizzard, AEL, and of course McDonald's for supporting this competition and putting on the presentation. We have so much more ahead of you, and I can't wait to see you there. Bye for now.